Committee of Wednesday, May 26, 2010. I'm joined by Bernard Parks and Paul Koretz. We have a quorum. Item number one.
Item number one is a DOT report relative to establishing an oversized vehicle restricted area in the South Harbor City and North San Pedro area.
There seems to be no discussion on this, but if any colleagues wants to speak, great. If not, I want to put it on consent. It's up to you all. It has to do that the department received a letter from Ms. Hahn requesting the establishment of an area there of approximately 400 street segments that would prohibit the parking of oversized vehicles between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. These vehicles are being parked for long periods of time throughout the area instead of being properly stored on the owner's properties and off-street storage facilities. The situation is limiting parking available for residents and creates a visual blight on the surrounding community. The recommendation is to approve the department's recommendation. Do you have a motion on that?
So moved.
Second. Okay, that's unanimous. That has just been done. Thank you very much. Item number two.
Item number two is a
Sorry, anybody have any public comment cards here?
Yes, sir. General public comment.
General public comment?
Yeah,
Okay.
item number two.
And then item number two. Okay, I'm sorry.
Item number two is a CAO report relative to DOT funding recommendations for the 2009-10 LA County Metropolitan Transportation Authority Rail Annual Work Program.
Okay, before we do number two, I just want to apologize for this. I do want to do the public comment first, so just stay, you don't have to run away. I have two folks who want to speak. One is the great lady there, and the other is Arnold Sachs. Come on up to the mic in public comment. I say great lady because the name isn't clear, but it says senior opportunities.
I think she's in general public comment.
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay.
General public comment.
Okay.
Thank you for hearing me first.
My pleasure.
I'm Joan Taylor. I have given each of you papers to supplement my remarks.
Great. Give us your name for the record. Your name for the record.
I am deaf, and I can only guess what you are saying. I will try to stay within the 3 minutes. I am here, if you look at the paper, I'm asking you to continue the city ride, $84 quarterly taxi subsidy for seniors and disabled. Let us pay $10 and $20. The taxis are the most convenient because they're available 24/7 and because they're the cheapest for the taxpayer. And if you get rid of that, if you cut that in half, those of us who use taxis are going to demand rides from your more expensive, your $140 to $200 rides from a door-to-door transportation, just exorbitant taxpayer costs that you can get rid of if you keep the taxi program as it is. The second request I have is this. City Ride currently funds a shuttle in Park La Brea, and it makes 9 stops, and it takes people across the street on 3rd Street over to a senior center. Please eliminate that shuttle. The taxpayer, the ordinary taxpayer with a wife and 2 children and trying to save money from rent or tuition from college, anything, they should not pay for a shuttle within a gated community where the rents are $2,000 and $3,000 and $5,000, $15,000. Please get rid of that city ride shuttle in Park La Brea. The final thing I have under my name, please get rid of the door-to-door transportation program. If you look on the second to last page, you'll see that the Los Angeles Business Journal published my comment, my letter, showing how wasteful it was. It cost the taxpayer $200, $140 to $200 for me to take a local ride to my grocery or my therapy. There is no reason the taxpayer should pay $140 so I can go get groceries. Please act on each one of my suggestions for City Ride, and please make these savings for the taxpayer and these increased, or the help to the seniors and disabled. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and Paul Baxter, I'd like you to meet with her at another time and have a discussion on it, and maybe Mr. Koretz wants to comment. That's in your area, isn't it?
Which, the Park La Brea?
Yeah.
That's actually Tom LeBon's.
Oh, it is Tom's.
It's not? She's in the district, but I...
Okay.
Park La
All right, so I'm also asking my colleague, Mr. Koretz,
Sorry.
to have a discussion with our great
We'll
constituent.
be happy to do that.
I like your tulips on the back of that outfit there. Okay, Mr. Sachs.
Is this general public comment?
Yes, sir, it
Oh,
is.
general public comment.
Are you speaking for, or you're at number 2? huh?
Well, I was speaking on number 2 because I thought that was the item you were going to call.
But you were also on public comment.
Yeah,
here.
right, but I usually do public comment at the end. I really didn't have my thought. I could speak
Oh,
public.
that's okay.
I'm concerned with the MTA. You might have heard that there's been some discussions regarding a move to reopen the hearing on the fare increases. Yet, on the Green Line, the fare increase is already posted to take effect for July 1st. So why have hearings if you're posting the new fare increases? Again, with the fare increases, I think the fact that you're raising the fare for the Easy Pass as high as it is, I think it should be a lower cost. I think you should send a letter to them saying that because you'd have more people, if you could lower the cost on the Easy Pass, you'd have more people who might want to buy the Easy Pass, which would give them more money up front. They will never, ever, 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 ever make a desirable percentage out of the fare box unless they raise the fare to $10. And at the rate they're going, they may make $10, but it'll be either year 2050. And when they make $10 then, they still will only have the same percentage. So they need to find a way to get more money up front, and the best way to do that would be to lower the cost of the high-end items, sell more high-end items, and get more fare revenue that way. And I'm concerned about the LADOT and its fare increases, and why it took so long to find out that the Prop A funds were going to be short this year. Why did it take so long for them to act on it? Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. You can stay here for item number 2, because you filled out a card on it. Could you, please, sorry, Maria, repeat again item number 2?
Item number 2 is the CAO's report relative to the funding recommendations for the 2009-10 Metro Annual Work Program.
Please.
This is a major concern, Metro and its rail programs. I mean, I'm not sure. In March, when they allocated funding to build the Gold Line Foothill extension, and they talked about the Gold Line Foothill extension, and SCAG has been involved with the Gold Line Foothill extension, and there have been numerous references to the Gold Line Foothill extension. When Metro allocated $800 million, they allocated it to the Blue Line Construction Authority. Blew me away, blows me away. How do you, okay, if you follow their train of reasoning, you create it, you go with it, you change it. It's Gold Line, Gold Line, Gold Line, Gold Line. Who's the responsible party? Possession is 9/10 of the law. You hear phrases thrown around. The Blue Line Construction Authority is going to build the Gold Line Foothill extension. Why is that so? Well, the reason is pretty simple. My point is, they're lying. They put ads in the newspaper, and the council goes along with it. This is so ridiculous. They put ads in the newspaper stating that Metro is funding through a Measure R $800 million for the Gold Line Foothill Construction Authority. But it's not. The action they took is the Blue Line. And there were private articles written by a transportation advocate advocacy group, the LA Times wrote the goal line, the advocacy group wrote the goal line. I don't care, that's private. But when they're spending public funding to lie to the public, which they're already doing, there's got to be a stop. And the council should step up and say something, unless they're implicit in the action. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. So staff, come on up and explain to us item 2.
Angela Bruman, CAO's office. The CAO report recommends the approval of the administrative actions required for the city to accept reimbursement for work on the Metro and Expo annual work program and to continue the work for this program. Our office has worked with DOT, and we'd like to make one amendment to our report. In recommendation number 1 for the Department of Transportation's overtime reimbursements, we'd like to increase the amount from $161,000 to $500,000 to accurately reflect the actual expenditures and overtime that are projected for this fiscal year. Additionally, there are 4 new positions that are being requested for authorization this fiscal year, 2 in the Department of Transportation and 2 in the Bureau of Engineering. And our office recommends authorization of these positions, and we'll also be discussing this in Personnel Committee.
Do you want to add anything? Feel okay?
No.
Okay. I have a series of questions, colleagues, just real quick. Since furloughs won't be a factor for special funded positions next year, are the new resolution positions authorities necessary?
We believe they are necessary. We've talked to DOT. There are a number of projects that are ramping up, and perhaps DOT can better explain what those projects are, but we believe that those positions will be necessary.
The 2 projects, or the 4 total projects, 2 in the Department of Transportation and the 2 in the Bureau of Engineering, are to work on the 405 widening project. Due to the accelerated schedule, the Department of Transportation and Bureau of Engineering does not have adequate staff, to concentrate on all the accelerated work and provide the city support services necessary to meet Metro's project schedules.
Thank you. And I know Mr. Koretz feels like I do. We border the 405. He's on the east side, I'm on the west side. And as we do the widening project, the $1 billion over the next 4 or 5 years, we're doing 3 bridges, the Sunset Bridge, the Sepulveda, the Mulholland Bridge, and the Skirble. These 3 bridges are major. And on top of that, we have Sepulveda reverse lane business. We have a lot of things happening at the same time. I was very worried about the proper staff to assist our residents, both the 11th and the 5th. And obviously, we have MTA involved and Caltrans and everybody else. So I'm very happy to hear that. And I know Mr. Koretz might want to comment as well. Is more work anticipated in the next fiscal year?
Yes, they just started, building, demoing the Sunset Bridge over the 405 freeway, and we figured that this is going to continue throughout the next fiscal year. And also, we're meeting with the community. Our department, along with Metro, have met with 2 homeowners associations within the past couple of weeks, and we anticipate meeting with 2 more groups within the next month. So yes, we feel that the schedule will continue to be accelerated, and we'll need all the city support services necessary to support the project.
And will the new resolution positions authorities be filled with internal staff? Is there any opportunity to move general funded design and construction staff to these projects to expedite the projects?
I think it is my understanding that we will be transferring people from the general fund to the special funded project positions.
And generally, just to add, once position authorities are provided, new position authorities are provided, if the department wants to fill, they have to go through the managed hiring process. Generally, the first approval that managed hiring does give the department is to first seek internal transfers for those hiring opportunities.
Very good. Is the $300,000 in the work program consistent with previous year non-reimbursable amounts?
Generally, there are a few pieces of equipment that the department does require for this work that we do have to put in our money for, so this is pretty standard.
Very good. That's enough of my questions. Mr. Koretz?
I mean, I don't have much to add except to echo some of the same concerns. I think
we're very nervous looking at the number of simultaneous projects that are taking place, and just hoping that we're adequately staffed to respond and not create the traffic nightmare during construction that we're all pretty terrified about. Do we think this is adequate to to get through this period, or are we still short-staffed?
No, we feel that of all the positions we obtain from this, we'll be adequately staffed for this fiscal year.
Well, I'll hold my breath, as will all my constituents and Bill and all of his constituents. Looking at the number of projects, it looks like it'll take some creativity not to create massive traffic tie-ups. So we will take your assurance that we're adequately staffed and hope we can get through this with a minimum of disaster.
What I'd like is a report back on this before we make in about, 90 to 120 days, telling us if we're on target, do you need any more resources? Just keep us in the loop, because we don't want situations to arise after, the fact. If you think you can, or you need, let us know. But give us a report back in 90 to 120 days. You find the right time. Mr. Parks.
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions. I think we need an explanation on the sense that this is a reimbursement, so that there's not a misunderstanding that that's just a pile of money that's unallocated. Just where does that money go, and has it already been spent? Because it appears we front-loaded Prop A.
We have budgeted about $2 million in Prop A for front funding for these salary costs. This report is accepting the reimbursements from Metro for those costs.
So this money has been spent. It's
Correct. And what we anticipate to spend through the rest of the fiscal year.
And then the other issue is that with the addition of the 4 people in this request, does that then raise the amount of funds we expect from Metro at the next pay period? Is it refundable? Are we front-loading those 4? Have they agreed to pay for those additional 4?
Metro has agreed to pay for work being provided on the program, so that would include the cost for the 4 additional positions.
These positions, in effect, are dedicated to this project?
They will be dedicated to these projects, yes.
All right. The other question I had, the one thing, and there's several departments, one of the things we're getting on the Expo Line board, in fact, they're going through a mediation now, and from what I understand, it may be more directed to DWP than city resources. But because we've signed these contracts that we do the work, and because of the delay in response, it has now caused the contractor to delay, to like 44 weeks delay. They're now in a major dispute as to who should pay for that. And the problem we're going to run into, I think, is if it's unfavorable to Expo and they later find that the city delayed them and they couldn't get their work done, then it's my expectation that Expo is going to be, or MTA, are going to be coming back to the city saying you've gotten paid and you didn't do the work timely, which now has created a significant dilemma for the project and the sense of the mediation. And so I think it's something we have, and again, it's LADOT and primarily Water and Power, from what I understand. But we need to get that message that if we've signed these contracts and we said we're going to move forward, that we have the potential liability of being involved in this current mitigation or lawsuit, because we know if they identify city resources failing to respond, the next step is they're going to be coming saying, how much of this litigation are you going to assume? So we'd like to make sure that for all of these departments involved here, that we get the message out through BOE and Con Ed and street services and all that other, but also we need to add LA Water and Power to that list, because they have other agreements, and that's where I think eventually we're going to get a bill or be included in the mitigation of the lawsuit. So if we can do that, I'd appreciate it.
We'll add the LADWP to the updated Metro Rail report back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parks, for that. The recommendation is to adopt the CAO's revised recommendations. Do I have a motion for that? Mr. Parks does it? Mr. Koretz seconds that?
Yes.
Unanimous on that. We'll go to item number 4. We'll see if Mr. LeBon shows up for item number 3. If not, I have an amending motion or amending positioning.
Item number 4 is a Rosendahl Coretz motion relative to reducing the speed limit from 30 to 25 miles per hour on Alma Real Drive.
Hi, council members. I'm Pauline Chan from the Department of Transportation, and I work closely with Councilman Rosendahl's office to address questions and concerns about the speed limit on Alma Real Drive between Ocampo Drive and Altada Drive, and then also an adjacent segment as the street changes name to Corona Del Mar between Altada Drive to Chautauqua Boulevard. This is a street where we have a current speed zone survey, an engineering survey, which indicates that the appropriate speed limit based upon survey results is 30 miles per hour, which is the current speed limit. The desire of the community, as I understand it, is that they believe that a 30 mile per hour speed limit is not, quote, safe for their street. Although our records show that there have been 0 collisions on this street for the last, I would say, 5 years. Nevertheless, there is this concept in the community that if they were to get a 25 mile per hour speed limit, that may further alter driver behavior and make that speed limit consistent with other local streets in their neighborhood as far as the speed limits goes. And also, my understanding is that because the proposal is to impose a speed limit that is lower than what is recommended by the engineering survey, that therefore the California speed trap law would prevent the police department from using radar or other electronic devices to enforce the speed limit. And that we have worked with your council office to say that if the community still wants to pursue this, and if the council office wants to pursue this, that it is best if they fully acknowledge that there's that consequence of not being able to get any radar enforcement and perhaps any speed enforcement on that street. But seeing that this is a federal collector street that fits the description of a local residential street, the DOT will remain somewhat neutral on this matter, and that the loss of enforcement on the street with 0 accidents anyhow would have minimal impact. So with that said, we advise that in order to erect 25 mile per hour signs and remove the 30 mile per hour signs, legally we would need to alter the ordinance and delete the street from the 30 mile per hour section of the municipal code in order for us to legally put up 25 mile per hour signs. The basis for the 25 mile per hour signs, the legal basis, would be the section in the vehicle code that says that residential streets may have 25 mile per hour speed limit. And unless you want to radar enforce, then of course then the speed trap law would kick in, and that would be a different issue. But there is a legal basis to fall back on for a 25 mile per hour speed limit.
Pauline, first I want to thank you very much. You're incredible. My constituents are challenging, and you spent a lot of time with them in the Palisades and in Brentwood and in Sunset and in some of the other areas there, and I really appreciate your work. Secondly, I appreciate everything you just said with candor. The community there has been very clear to me. They feel more comfortable, even though everything you said is the case, and I'm glad you said it on the record. I want to go forward with it, with that in mind, and I want to approve the motion. Do I have a second on that? Okay.
Can I just ask one question?
Sure.
City Attorney?
Yes.
I just have one question. And I understand all the issues of what they're trying to get to. Does it put us in any greater liability in the fact that we are putting aside an enforcement tool that later, I mean, it's kind of the same theory as constructive notification. We're being advised that you're limited in how you can enforce. If something should occur, then the other side is you have people that, if this information we've gotten before, people drive faster than the signs normally. So if they're driving at a rate of 35 and you put a sign for 25, they're going to keep driving at 35. I'm just wondering what the legal, if there's any legal issues at all.
Well, I mean, there's the legal, Judith Reel, Deputy City Attorney, I mean, there's certainly the legal issue that you're enacting an ordinance that may not be enforceable because the city lacks the means to enforce it other than by radar, and you're now precluded from doing that. I don't believe that it would increase the city liability because the law does authorize a posted speed limit of 25 miles per hour. I will, however, consult with attorneys who specialize in civil liability in my office and traffic laws and just confirm that. But it would be a lawful action, and that's why we would sign the ordinance approved just to form in legality, because we believe it would be lawful.
I understand the action is lawful. I just think if we do some of these things, whether it creates additional liability, because as you know, we get sued on both sides of the issue. There are those who say the sign makes me feel more comfortable. There are those who say you ignored the fact that people are speeding and then eliminated an enforcement technique, and then someone's injured or whatever.
And again, I don't think there'd be city liability for that. The city wouldn't be liable for, it doesn't have to take every enforcement mechanism at its disposal in all cases. It needs to act reasonably. It's acting lawfully. But again, I will confirm that with other attorneys.
In this case, from at least the way the police department has talked about these in the past, if you don't have radar, normally there's no enforcement.
Correct.
They're not going to get out there and track them.
Right, and the courts are also express their displeasure with speed traps. They have opined that it induces contempt for the law if you pass a law that will not be enforced. However, lawfully it could be enforced, even though they may choose not to. They may not have the personnel to enforce it. It is enforceable, albeit by other means, and it is authorized by the Vehicle Code.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Could I just add one thing?
Sure.
Real quick. Pauline Chan is one of the best dedicated city employees, and I know Rita is shaking her head yes, and Mr. Fisher smiling. You'd want to vote. I just had to say that. Thank you.
Yeah, I said it before again, and now,
Mr.
we have
Parks.
support of everybody on this?
You support
Okay.
this?
Yes.
Vote.
Okay, it's unanimous.
Okay.
For...
Pauline, I would have talked to you more
Go
if
with
you
it.
wanted to vote.
Mr. Labange missed it, Pauline, but, you know, I was singing her praises too.
Right.
We work well together, and my
Right.
community is challenging, and she's been able to find a way to work with them. So you and I, Tom, and I'm sure
I know.
Mr. Koretz and Mr. Parks feel the same way. We have one more item left. It's item number 3, and I'm going to have you read it, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mr.
Right.
Labange.
Item number 3 is the DOT report relative to the installation of speed humps and solar-powered speed feedback signs on Electra Drive.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. If you would please, for the record,
Roy Kim, Department of Transportation.
Roy, thank you for your work too as well in trying to resolve this. You want to give the committee a brief report?
Yes. Since our last meeting in March, we've been working with the community and the Mount Olympus Homeowners Association to find a way to build speed humps and speed feedback signs in partnership with funding from the Homeowners Association. We've identified procedure to do that, and a summary of that procedure is submitted in our written report. First part of the report has to do with the speed hump installation. We have conducted a feasibility study preliminary, and we found that the speed humps are feasible on parts of Electra Drive where gradient is not as steep. Homeowners Association has agreed to fund our engineering costs to do a study and come up with a set of drawings, which they then will take to the Bureau of Engineering to pull a permit and hire their own contractor to build speed.
Great, so once you're making it happen, you say it's okay, we got a vehicle to do that?
That's correct.
And what do you estimate, if it gets approved by council, Mr. Clerk, this week?
This will go to council as soon as next Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay, good. And then approximately 60 days to get it done with the assistance of the council?
Drawing could be provided to them within a matter of 30 days.
Super.
So.
There should be no holdups, as easy as we can pull it off.
Right.
And Mr. Chair, thank you for your leadership as always in transportation.
Well, thank you.
Roy, I want to thank you again. I could say the same things about your dedication. And we want to add this here as, for the record, move that the Los Angeles Department of Transportation be authorized to accept the sum of $1,500 from the Mount Olympus Property Owners Association for deposit in fund number 194, account number 1090, salary overtime, to fund preparation design package for 2 speed humps on Electra Drive. Further authorize LADOT to refund any unexpected project funds received from the community if at the completion of the project, the city's actual costs are less than the current amount received from the community. We're further resolved that we salute the Department of Transportation for this innovative way in solving this problem.
Well, thank you for your leadership, Mr. Labange. What I find very exciting about what you did was able to get the community to back it. We're in terrible financial situations, and to see that kind of collaboration and partnership is what we're all about.
Well, that's true, but also the department's a collaborator, which is the key, and I think that's what we have to look for in the future. Everything's going to be collaboration.
That's right. Mr. Caress, you want to add anything?
No, I think it's a good process.
Okay, and so, do I have a motion to move?
Motion to move.
Second, and unanimous among.
And forthwith to council.
Thank you all very much. Unless there's an additional public comment, the meeting is adjourned of the May 26th City's Transportation Committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job.